Greetings, Wasteland Wanderers, Rhadamant here. Thank you for tuning in to Frostpunk 2, Episode 2, Surviving the First Whiteout. So here, as you can see, even though we're not supplying enough food for everybody, the hunger is stable. So it's not, like, getting worse, because enough people are getting fed that they're not falling ill or starving to death. Obviously, we could do better than that, but I just wanted to note that, even when you're not fully supplying what they need, it will become stable. All right, so an extraction district for materials, done. And that will fulfill our material scarcity. And then we'll be obtaining most of the things we need. I don't think it would be necessarily a bad idea to continue stockpiling food, and also to potentially build another shelter so that the last 5 community units get sheltered. Because that will, one of the reasons to shelter them is up here, you can see a percentage of the workforce, granted it's only 2 out of 3,000, but a percentage of the workforce that can't work, and that is due to sickness, and usually sickness is due to being too cold, or being unsheltered. Alright, so this is, well, we've been here so many times, the soil's depleting. A couple more, and there will be no point in erecting the hothouses. There will be nothing to grow food on. And the yield is so low. Either we pull emergency shifts or tighten our belt, otherwise there might not be enough for everyone. So these are special abilities that you can use, which I don't intend to. But I'll show you what they are. So one is instruct the Wanderers to tighten the belts. So if I click the Wanderers here, I can tell them to tighten belts. So if I tighten belts, hunger is significantly increased, but food demand per capita is decreased. Basically telling them to not eat. I'd rather not do that. I don't think it's necessary, but sometimes it is. There's other special abilities here. So I can take scraps from them, but it would piss them off. Or I can return scraps that I took, but it is net negative, so you can't, like, take scraps and then hand them back. It would still upset them. The other ability here is emergency shifts. So emergency shifts increases the production efficiency of the facility that you use the emergency shifts on, but the trust that they have in you falls. And if trust hits 0, they might have a vote of no confidence and throw you out of command. So trust, which is this orange bar down here, is pretty important to keep an eye on, because if you lose the trust of everybody, they will turn on you. So both of these decisions could help me fill the stockpile of food, but have pretty negative consequences that I want to avoid. And I think I can supply the food without going to such dire measures. At some point, does the oil from the rigs run out? Yes, but it runs out in 138 weeks. And this prologue ends in about 64, so I have more oil than I need, in other words. So here we go. Now we have the food district on the seals, and that's providing 80 food versus the 45 food from the fertile soil. And we are now stockpiling food. So in 21 weeks, the stockpile of 10,000 food will be full. But I need to store 40,000 food in order to be prepared for the whiteout, which leads me to another building. So I've gone through the districts here. The next thing is hubs. And hubs allows you to build, for this tutorial, it's only the food stockpile hub, but normally it would be materials, goods, fuel, food, so on and so forth, and a whole lot of other options. And hubs allow you to store more of that resource. And then if you build a hub, so in this case, if I build a food stockpile hub next to a food extraction zone or food production zone, it reduces the workforce requirement of the adjacent buildings by 10%. Which is to say, if there was 2 farms next to one another and you dropped a food stockpile hub, you would actually need fewer people working total. Because the stockpile hubs themselves take 100 workforce, but the food facilities normally they take 600. So if you have 2 food facilities at 600 and you remove 60 people out of that workforce, you have to hire 100 people for the hub, but you remove 120 people out of the workforce. So it's a net positive effect, and then you also get increased storage capacity. I am not going to build a hub right now, though. And the reason for that is I don't have enough food stockpiled to warrant a hub. I'd rather continue collecting food instead. So I'm waiting for the scraps and prefabs for another food district. I'll need 10 more prefabs. Come on. There we go. Stick another food district here. And pretty soon we will have our material scarcity solved. And here is another update. Against the elements. Each day the wind grows fiercer. Relentlessly, it beats against our buildings, weakening our structures gust by gust. Without raw materials to repair the damage, our districts will deteriorate. The more we build, the more materials we need. So I'm going to promise. So I can either not address, and it worsens my relationship with the Wanderers, or promise to gather more materials, which is a rather hilarious thing to do because I am like 1 day away from the extraction district for materials. So this would be considered like an optional task, where if I didn't complete this, I wouldn't necessarily fail. I would just incur the relation with the Wanderers to go down. So right now, my relationship with these Wanderers is neutral. And I can raise it by... it's marginally increased because I promised to gather materials, but if I fulfill that promise, which is done right now, good work. We are gathering enough materials to maintain our districts. Time to focus on stockpiling food for the Whiteout. Relationships improves, causing trust to rise. So then, if I take a look here, I can see my promise was kept. So it marginally increased their relationship with me, which is this white bar here. So when it goes too low, it turns to red, and they become hostile or skeptical of my rule. And then if it goes to the right, they become supportive or even devoted. When factions are skeptical or outright hostile, they will protest and riot. And when they're devoted, they will create rallies and offer additional support, like offering to work overtime for free or to contribute more currency, so on and so forth. All right. Up here, you can see that I am extracting way more materials than I have to do with. And then also, I'm not producing enough oil for the heating. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn on the second pump, or the second oil extractor, and then decrease the amount in which we are extracting materials to a positive, but not such a net positive, because there's nowhere to actually store these materials at the moment. Now, I would like to build one last housing district, but taking a look at my prefabs, there's only 12 weeks left of prefabs remaining. So I got to keep an eye on that as well, because I'm eventually going to run out of prefabs. And there is one more unit of prefabs over here, which I will tap before I run out. So, speaking of which, let's frost break over to the other prefab supply. And we are going to fill our stockpile in about 17 weeks. So in a minute here, I am also going to want to put down a food stockpile hub too. I'll probably do the food stockpile hub before the housing. I do feel bad about those community members that aren't housed, but we're working on it. So the other thing to note up here is that hunger doesn't go around immediately, like it doesn't go away. So even though I have an over surplus of food, the people that were hungry, they don't like instantly become nourished. So it's one of those, it slowly lags, but it works in both situations. So if I all of a sudden ran out of food tomorrow, it's not like they would immediately be starving to death, and I would have a little bit more time to address it, which is nice. Also, up here, at my current rate of collection, I will have enough food in 82 weeks, but the whiteout comes in 59. So that obviously means I need to increase the rate in which I am acquiring food. "48 weeks. So at our current rate, we will make it. But I don't want to just make it. I want to slay this story mission by going way over the top. A mysterious symbol. The captain's legacy. One of our Frostpunk crew uncovered the frozen remains of a man in a tattered uniform. His shoulder patch reads, New London Scouts 3rd Platoon, and he bears an obscure insignia. Some of our elders claim it belongs to a military organization, while others argue it has a religious significance. Maybe you have heard of this New London before and can settle their debate. So, this comes down to one of the only big polling options here. And here is the poll. It's over on the right side of the screen. So, if it symbolizes order, that means the man was a stalwart who believes in reason, merit, and progress. If you think that it symbolizes faith, it means that it is a symbol of the pilgrims who believe in tradition, equality, and adaptation. A major mechanic in Frostpunk 2 is that you will have factions that rival one another, and you can side with one specific faction, or alternatively, you can try to play the middle. I will warn you, however, that trying to please everyone usually pleases no one, and that often taking sides is the best recourse, but you don't have to necessarily be heartless about it. That doesn't mean that you wage all-out war on the other factions. There are better solutions than that. And it looks to me like, I'm going to call this poll a little early. Looks to me like you guys think it symbolizes order. And that is a very important choice because for the entire story, when given the option to support different factions, I will be supporting the stalwarts. Also, forecast. Up here, we see the whiteout on the horizon. The temperature will drop by 60 Celsius, heat demand will extremely increase, areas under whiteout will be impossible to explore, sites and outposts under whiteout will be cut off. Alright, waiting for 140 prefabs. Whenever a district is running low on resources, you will see this symbol here. A resource deposit is nearly depleted, giving you a little bit of a heads up that soon it will not be reliable. Which is good. There's a lot of UI elements like that, which will warn you well in advance of a collapse. So I think the next building I'm going to build is actually going to be the prefab extraction building, because our prefab income is rather slow. There is a concept of deep resources, not on this map, but in future maps, you will be able to extract a much more rich deposits, but it requires research and technology, and it's relatively expensive to upkeep. We'll get into that. That's a bit further. Looking at her grandchildren playing. Some people are ready to sacrifice themselves to lower the food required. Well, I hope not to have to sacrifice Grandma, if I can help it. I'm already on course to meet stockpile demands on time. So down here, we can see one of the district effects. This food stockpile hub stores up to 15k food. So now my total food storage went from 10k to 25k. And then the work force amount for this building went from 200 to 180 because of the food stockpile hub. I'm also going to frost break the last fertile soil spot as well. Another thing I'm going to need to do before it gets too cold is to start extracting the last oil wagon, because we're going to want all the oil that we can get before too long. Alright, got a little bit colder, so we'll raise our oil extraction rate. As you can see, hunger is fully resolved, as is squalor. I am not supplying enough materials for everything. I'm shy 6 materials, but it's close enough that it's not going to cause any immediate problems. Alright, I'm going to start frost breaking out to the last oil car. Because it's about to get significantly colder. And this extraction prefab district only has about a week left. Once a building is out of materials and there isn't like a deep deposit tap, you can demolish it for partial refund. So now that this extraction district is done, I can break it down for 38 scraps and 53 prefabs. And it costs 50 scraps and 70 prefabs, so there is a bit of a refund there. Let's go and get that last housing district going. So, I need to do some frost breaking for that, actually. So, let's see. Frost breaking needs 300 workforce. I'm going to lower the extraction district over here. The people working in it. So I have 300 free workforce. To frost break. I think this is the last time I'm going to have to frost break. So frost break that section. And then as soon as they're done, I'll put them back in the prefab extraction. All right. I did say that I wanted the last oil car, so I'm grabbing that now. And then I don't think it would necessarily be a bad idea to continue getting food districts after I have set up all the other infrastructure, so that we amass a tidy sum of food. So with that section frostbroken, the reason I did that is so that I can build a housing district that benefits from adjacency from both of the other housing districts to minimize the fuel costs. So I'll show you that in just a second. Once I have the... There we go. So here, if I do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, this new district has 3 sections bordering this housing district and 3 sections bordering this housing district, reducing its total heating needs by 40. So you can see the adjacency bonuses work quite well in my favor. Alright. In order to get a new food district, I need another 140 prefabs, so I'll just wait for that to trickle in. It also just got colder. So you can see that I'm not now producing enough oil to heat everyone, even with both extraction districts running at full capacity, which is why I built the third. So now with the third, I am producing just enough oil to keep everyone warm. It's also important to note that the other buildings around also require heat. So if we take a look at the heat and fuels overlay, here's the requirements. So everything requires heat, right? If it's a workplace. Now, interestingly, the hubs don't. So as you can see, there is no heating need for this hub, this food stockpile hub. But pretty much everything else requires heat. And it's up to you to supply it. So this housing district, with it built, can house everyone, but I don't need 10 extra spaces. So I'm going to reduce the housing district. And one interesting thing about reducing the housing district is it has now reduced the heating demand to 0. Because so few people are living in here that it actually doesn't cost anything to heat it anymore. So if I take a look at the heating and fuels, 20, 20, and 0. Hypothetically, what you can do is reduce all the housing districts down a little bit and see if you can't game the system. So here is like 3 housing districts down. So instead of 20, 20, and 0, it's now 8, 8, and 8. Even better, right? So you can really play with the sliders in order to try to get the most bang for your buck out of the system. All right, let's get the other food district. And then we're about 11 weeks away from filling up. So not only do I need a food district, but I'll need another hub. So for that, I need 100 free workforce to be able to construct the hub. And I'm probably going to have to reduce the amount of people working the prefab for that. All right, the hub costs 80 prefabs. So when I see the 80 prefabs tick up, I'll build another one. And I'm going to build a food stockpile hub right adjacent to this most recent fertile soil tap, because some of these other farms, the farms that I built first, like this one, is going to run out of food in 24 weeks, but the Whiteout is coming in 37. So some of these food deposits are going to not be useful pretty soon. And that new hub was built just in time. So now in 17 weeks, I will fill my stockpiles completely. And in 35 weeks, the Whiteout comes. So we're perfectly on track. Now another thing to note is even with all of my oil being pumped, ignoring the fact that I could do emergency shifts, we are not even producing enough heat to heat everything. So in this case, I could close down some of these food districts or reduce the amount of total workers in order to meet the heat demand, but being a little bit under the heat demand, so I'm meeting it 360 out of 384, I'm close enough that it's probably not going to cause any diseases or sicknesses. Basically, people are a little chilly, but they're certainly not that worse for wear. It's not like they're dying or anything like that. Also, there's not a lot of prefabs left in this prefab building, so I could also just reduce the amount of people working in the prefab building, and that would be fine too. In fact, I'm going to do that and construct yet another food stockpile hub. I temporarily need enough people, free people, to frostbreak, and then I'll build the hub. So not only am I aiming to get the 40k food that they require, I'll go above it. I'll go to like 50k or 60k, something like that. Why not go overboard? So now we can store up to 55k, and we're filling that up in 23 weeks. Whiteout comes in 27, so I'll have 15,000 more food than they even asked for. So yeah, we didn't need to do emergency shifts or tighten our belts or anything like that. We'll be fine. $140 prefabs. Oh, there was a situation happening. Let me click on this. I missed it. The whiteout draws near. Some people in the camp are getting tense. They worry we won't gather enough food in time. So I could slaughter the seals to greatly increase food production, but the last of the seal colonies will be butchered. I could let our elders go, which reduces their total population. Or don't resort to extremes, and yeah, I'm not going to resort to extremes. We don't need to do any of that. Don't be a worrywart. We'll be fine. Food secured. We did it. We secured enough food to survive the incoming whiteout. Our workers will make some last-minute preparations before the storm arrives. We should try to keep our people warm for this time. We will survive. What I'm doing here is because my food districts were running out of supplies, I turned them temporarily down or off so that I could spin up a new food district in the last spot. So we are at above the 40k. And I'm really not going to stop there. I'm going to try to get as much as I can. Because why not? Let's be gluttons in the apocalypse. Sounds good to me. Tighten our belts? More like loosen our belts. Gotta make room for that extra donut. So, the extraction district's gone. We'll recycle it. And I will no longer have access to any more prefabs in this prologue. And they're warning me that I no longer have prefabs. Ain't no issue. All right, in 9 weeks, I will fill the 55k stockpile. Whiteout doesn't come for another 12. So I may want to build yet another hub so that I can just keep stockpiling an obscene amount of food. Because at this point, why not? Sapo and Dennis Key, thank you for the resubs. Cheers. Alright, the whiteout is hitting very soon. Now, another thing that would be smart is to try to run these other food districts out of food before the storm comes, because the fewer districts I have active during the storm, the easier it is to heat them all. Also, during particularly bad storms, you can just turn off districts to basically tell people not to work during the storm, so that instead of working and requiring their workplaces to be heated, they just huddle at home. It's a bit of a problem if you're relying upon like coal extraction or something like that to keep you warm, but if you have stockpiles big enough, you can just turtle up for the winter. So I am passing the 55k mark. There we go. So I have more than 15,000 more food than they asked for, and we are about to get stormed. I'm ready. Thank you for tuning in to Frostpunk 2, which originally streamed live on Twitch September 21st. If you have any feedback or questions for me, let me know in the comments below, but please keep in mind that I'm trying to avoid spoilers. If you would like to catch a live stream of mine, Rhadamant.com has my stream schedule and countdown timers to upcoming streams. If you would like to join my online gaming community on Discord, Rhadamant.com has a link to it, as does the description of this video. Thank you so very much for watching, and a special thank you to my Patreon patrons, Twitch subscribers, and viewers like you that support the channel and made it all the way to the credits. Thank you so very much. I hope to catch you next episode or an upcoming stream. Farewell, my fellow survivors.